الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته ومنتهى علمه وجميع ما شاء وخلق وذرع وبرع عالم الغيب شهادة الرحمن الرحيم المالك القدوس العزيز الحكيم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون أما بعد فيقول الله تعالى في سورة الجمعة يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. صدق الله العظيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in chapter number 62 of the Quran, Surah Al-Jumu'ah, O you who believe, when the call is made for Jumu'ah, hasten to the remembrance of Allah and leave off all bay'ah, all business. That is better for you if you but knew. Alhamdulillah, for me, Jumu'ah is the best day of the week. For me, Jumu'ah is the hype. Some people, they can't wait till Friday evening or Saturday because it's the weekend for them. In this society, the cycle is set up like that, where most of us are off. We don't go to work. We don't go to the plantations on Friday and Saturday. So most people, the highlight of their week is their day off, Saturday, maybe Sunday, for most of us. Looking at some of you that I know personally, some of us work 7 days a week. Some of us work 6 days. Some of us, our weekend is not Saturday and Sunday. But for most of us, most people, Saturday and Sunday are their day off, so they look forward to those days. For me, Friday is the best day, Yom Jumu'ah, the day of gathering. Not only because Allah named the surah in Quran after it, not only because Allah gave us a name for this day and established special worship for this day, not only because the Prophet ﷺ told us the reward of those who make it their business to get here on time and prepare for Yom Jumu'ah, not only because of those reasons. Because sometimes we know something intellectually and we do it because we know it's the right thing to do. But there comes a point in time where all of us, with anything that's good, it goes past the intellect and it reaches the heart. It goes past the intellect and it reaches the heart. And so you begin to love doing it. You begin to love doing it. To outsiders, it may seem like it's hard or it's difficult or it's an inconvenience. But you know when you love something, that it becomes easy for you to do and you're motivated to do it. Difficulty and all of these other considerations go out the window. Why? Because the love of that thing is in your heart. I give you an extreme example. Someone that's in love with someone. A man that's in love with a woman that's in love with a man. Not regular love. Love, stalker love. If I can't have you, no one else can, no one else will type of love. You know when someone gets obsessed like that, their whole life revolves around that person. They show up at the person's job. They call the person over and over and over again. They won't take no for an answer. If the person is in another relationship, that's not even a barrier. I'll eliminate them if I have to. I said I'm giving you an extreme example. In that person's mind, all of that work they're putting in is not work. Because they love that person in their mind. A baby loving the mother. The baby will scream their lungs out just so the mother can come back around. It takes a lot of work screaming, even for a baby. But that's not work, because the baby loves the mother. When you love something, any work, inconvenience, or hardship attached to getting that thing is nothing. For me, I love Yom Jumu'ah. Even if I'm traveling, and you know if you're traveling, it's not obligatory, it's not mandatory for you to go to Jumu'ah. If I'm traveling, I'll go out of my way, even take a detour to go to Jumu'ah, even though it's not mandatory upon me. That's how much I love Yom Jumu'ah. In the 25 plus, maybe 30 years that I've been Muslim, I probably can count on my hands the times I was traveling on a Jumu'ah and actually missed it. I'm not sure if I can even count it on one hand. I have to think about it. Allah says, "O you who believe, when the call is made for Yawmul Jumu'ah, hasten, rush to the remembrance of Allah. Fas'aw ila dhikrillah." A lot of people think that this means that when it's time for Jumu'ah, run. If you're driving a car, drive like a maniac and get to Jumu'ah, get to the masjid. Doesn't mean that. And this is extremely important because sometimes we read something and we restrict the meaning of that thing to our intellect. And we shouldn't do that. We should have in our minds where this ayat of Quran that I'm reading, this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that I'm reading, I'm a human being and I have not received revelation. My understanding of this thing could be wrong, or it could only be part right, or it could be shallow, or I could be exaggerating in my understanding. We should never think that what we understand, that's the way it is, and that's it. What hasten to the remembrance of Allah means is that we should prepare for Jumu'ah. We should take a ghusl, a washing, a whole body wash. We should wear our best or our cleanest clothing. And we should take our time getting to the masjid. And even in taking our time, we should strive to be the first ones there. And then when we get there, we should sit in the most front ranks. We should sit in the front. And when we get there, once we sit down, we should not talk. Even the Prophet ﷺ said that someone that's sitting there playing with pebbles, like fiddling around, listening to the Khutbah, wasted his time. He said that someone would tell someone else to be quiet has taken away from his own reward. Allah says, وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعَ, and leave off all business. Leave off all business. See, one of the secrets of Salat in general, and Yawm Jumu'ah in particular, is that it is a training. It's a training. It's an exercise. See, in Salat, you have a communal aspect to it. You pray together. You line up facing a certain way. You don't leave any gaps in the ranks. Those who have more knowledge and those who are older are preferred to be in the front ranks. The women and the children is preferred for them to be in the back ranks. And there's one person leading them. And that person is called the Imam. And like we said, this is a training. I literally know some people that when they follow someone in Salat, sometimes they go to the next position before the Imam. The Prophet ﷺ said that the Imam is appointed to be followed. So do not precede him. And I think it's good to mention here, because again, a lot of people, they read hadith and they think the way they understand it is the way it is, when that's not what the Prophet ﷺ meant, nor is that what he said. Nor is that how people around him understood it. The hadith that I just paraphrased, that you can find in Sahih Muslim in the book of Salah. A lot of people think that that means, for example, I pray the way the Prophet ﷺ prayed by the way you reached us through Imam, which is Southern, praying with your hands by your side in Qiyam. Some people think that because I pray with my hands to the side, you have to pray with your hands to the side. The hadith don't mean that. But a lot of people think that the hadith means I have to imitate the Imam. No, the Prophet ﷺ said, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni yusalli. Pray the way you see me pray. And with regards to the way where you put your hands at in Qiyam, he was seen praying at least 3 different ways. Hands by the side, right over left, below the navel, right over left, above the navel. So all of those ways have reached us through reliable chains of transmission in hadith. So it's okay, it's cool. But the point of the hadith is that you don't go ahead of the Imam. He's the Imam, he's appointed to be followed, meaning you don't go in front of him. Praying like that teaches you something. It teaches you discipline. In Jumu'ah, in the Jumu'ah, in the Salat, is a training for that. You find people who the Salat has entered their heart, that you find that same type of discipline in other areas of their life. You find when that person is at work, and he's not the supervisor, he doesn't try to be the supervisor. You find when that sister is at home with her husband, she's not trying to be the husband, she's trying to be the wife. Etc., etc., etc. When you come to Yom Jumu'ah, you leave off everything else. And you dedicate yourself to the remembrance of Allah. In your mind, you're not thinking about nothing else. You're not thinking of what I'm going to do later, or what I'm going to eat later, or because you prepare for Jumu'ah. That's what Fas'au ila dhikrillah means. Hasten to the remembrance of Allah means. You remove anything that could distract you from the remembrance of Allah before you get there. It's automatic, it's autopilot. I have a cell phone, I didn't leave it in my car, I need to take it with me. Okay, let me cut it on silent, or let me cut it off. We don't cut it on vibrate so that we still hear it a little bit, so I know it went up. No, we cut it off. Believe it or not, I know people that in Salat, they make motions to other people. Or some people talk to other people in Salat. Like literally. Somebody can see you praying, like, or when you finish praying, come holler at me. Like, why are you trying to interrupt me in my Salat? They don't understand the prayer. So this Yom Jumu'ah, we should start looking at it on a whole different level. Allah doesn't have us do things that's beneficial to Him. We can do nothing to benefit Him. Everything that we do is beneficial. Everything that He's commanded us to do is beneficial for us. It's for us. Or you who believe when the call is made for Yom Jumu'ah, hasten to the remembrance of Allah and leave off all business. That is better for you if you but knew what happened to you guys. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa afdalu salatu wa tamu taslim, ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Wa radiyallahu ta'ala an sadat al-tabi'een, wa ulama al-amalin, wa a'immatul arba'at al-mujtahideen, wa muqaddidin ila yawmiddin, amma ba'd. The Salah, the Jumu'ah, it's a training. It teaches you discipline. Islam in general teaches us discipline. And the more we practice Islam, and not only robotically do it, but try our best to understand the fadilah, or the benefits, or the merits of doing it, and whenever possible, try to find out some deeper reasons of why we do these things. We know we do things because Allah said so. The Prophet ﷺ said so. They ordered us to do it, or recommended us to do it. But sometimes there's also other reasons that it's not important to know in order to do it, but it may increase your enthusiasm for doing so. And with this discipline, a lot of us don't really recognize or think about it. But Islam gives us a code of conduct. And every man has to have a code. A lot of Muslims now think that there is no code. If you think about it, many Muslims think that there is no code. They're not accountable to anyone. And so this is why we see what we see. If you want to get or elevate in any sphere of activity, you have to have a code. Every man must have a code. The mafia, the mob, they have a code. Just off of law, brother. They're guilty of criminal acts. They kill people, they extort people, they involved in corruption. Okay, there are people that are not part of organized crime, that kill people, that extort people, that are involved in corruption. What's the difference between the individual that's doing it on itself, that doesn't have any rules and a code, and someone in organized crime? They have a code. They get away with it longer. They make more money doing it because they have a code. If you bring in a rat, the rat dies and you die. No compromise. There's levels. Why? Because that code. They got weak when they started breaking that code. So in the various cities around the country, the mob ain't as strong as it used to be. Why? Because more of them started breaking the code. Even sports teams, professional or otherwise, they have a code. You have to agree to adhere to the code before they let you play on the team. It's a code. When you're at work, before they agree to hire you, you agree to a code. And they agree to the same code. They're not using this terminology, but it's a code. You agree to do X, Y, and Z at your job. And they agree to pay you. Not only do they agree to pay you, they tell you exactly how much they're going to pay you. And they tell you when they're going to pay you. And they say if they slip up or if they mess up, they have a grievance process for you to get your rights. That's a code. The police have a code. Any organization good or evil or indifferent, that's successful, that has longevity, they have a code. And they exist as long as they adhere to the code. When they start violating their own code, it's only a matter of time before they will cease to exist. And Ubadah ibn Samit قال كنت في من حضر العقبة الأولى وكنا 12 رجلا فبايعنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم على بيعة النساء وذلك قبل أن تفرد الحرب على أن لا نشرك بالله شيء ولا نسرق ولا نزني ولا تقتل أولادنا ولا نأتي ببهتان تفتريه من بين أيدينا وأرجلنا ولا نكسيه في معروف فإن وفيتم فلكم الجنة وإن أشيتم من ذلك شيء وأمركم إلى الله عز وجل إن شاء أذاب وإن شاء غفر. What I just finished reading was the bay'ah, or the oath of allegiance, that was given to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he was living in Mecca before he even made the hijrah, to some of the Ansar, the companions from the Aus and the Khazraj, who came to give them the oath of allegiance at Aqaba. It is narrated by Ubadah ibn Samit, may Allah be pleased with him, who said, I was present at the first bay'ah of Aqaba, and there were 12 men in total. We gave our oath of allegiance to the Messenger of Allah, may Allah bless him and grant him peace, based upon the bay'ah of the Nisa, the bay'ah of the women. Now he's calling this the bay'ah of the women because if you look at Surah Mumtahina, Allah says that when it tells the Prophet ﷺ that when women come to him, examine them, and then give them the oath of allegiance, and he said what oath to take from them. And the wording of that oath is almost word for word what took place in this oath. And Surah Mumtahina was revealed years later when the Prophet ﷺ was in Medina after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. And so it's called Bay'at al-Nisa'i, meaning that this is the bay'ah that the women take. But in this case, it was 12 men that took this bay'ah. He said that was before war was made obligatory. We pledged that we would not associate anything with Allah. Now mind you, these are people, they're Muslims already. They are Muslims already. But you see early on how even being a Muslim, it's not good enough. You gotta have a code. Number one, that we would not associate anything with Allah, that we would not steal, that we would not commit zina, that we would not kill our children, that we will not slander our neighbors. And really what slander our neighbors is specifically talking about, for example, if a woman has a child and she says, oh, the father of this child is so-and-so, when it's really not him. That we will not disobey him in what is right, and if we fulfill, then Jannah will be ours. Paradise will be ours. If we committed any of these sins, then our affair was left to Allah, the Mighty and Majestic, to punish or forgive us as He pleased. See, early on, that was the code. This is before all other bay'ats was given in Medina, when he really had authority and power. This was the code. And as Muslims, if we don't have a code, if you think your shahada and acting as an individual violating the Muslims and non-Muslims around you, and you gonna still get in a paradise like that, keep wishing. You gotta have a code. And you gotta adhere to that code. And this is what's gonna make us better, make us stronger, make us more pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as well as the Muslims and non-Muslims around us. Adhering to that code. Some of us are old enough to remember when Muslims still lived by a code. Some of us are old enough to remember that even if you didn't know that particular Muslim, you knew that you were safe around him. You knew that he will not rob you. You knew that he will not hustle you. You knew that if he was selling you something, if he sold you something, if there was something wrong with it, he would tell you, hey, listen, man, the reason why I'm selling this to you is so cheap, is because it got a defect right there. Muslims were upright like that. Muslims were family men. You didn't know the brother, but you knew one thing. He would take care of his women and his children and his family. And he cared about the community, not just the Muslim community. He cared about his community. I'm old enough to remember that. Some of you are old enough to remember that. That was a code. And we have to get back to that. Wonder why Muslims are getting weaker? Because Muslims are abandoning code. We're adopting other people's code that don't fit us. May Allah bring us back. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم اتصلنا وبك حسنة وتقبل اهتداء جل وعلا.